From FingerLakes1.com, I'm Josh Durso, and this is Inside the FLX. Our program began on Election Day when Brian Schenck became Sheriff-elect. He won an uncontested race to succeed retiring Cayuga County Sheriff David Gould, and in just a few days, he will officially take office. With that, there are some questions like, what will policing look like under his leadership? Also, what changes are possible under the new administration? We'll discuss those questions and much more with the man himself. He is in studio this morning. But first, we're going to take a quick break for today's show sponsor. We will be back in 60 seconds.
I was severely injured. I was on a ventilator. My husband was scared, and he just went for the nearest number that he had heard advertised over and over and figured they're the best. They know what they're doing. I think that's the typical reaction. But unfortunately, it wasn't the right one. And I'm thankful that we learned that early on in the process. He decided to look for someone locally who would give us a little more personalized attention. And when we met Steve and talked with him, we knew that we had found that person. If you want to feel like you have an attorney who's in your corner, who's going to listen to you, who's going to endeavor to understand you, give Steve a call. I really felt like everyone at Madej, Mears, and Rickey really cared.
For a law firm that cares about you, contact Madej, Mears, and Rickey at 315-568-0911. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
And welcome back to the program. I'm Josh Durso, and this is Inside the FLX. Today we are talking with the man who will take over in Cayuga County as sheriff on January 1st. Sheriff-elect, soon to be sheriff. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Josh, for having me. Great to be here again.
So obviously, it wasn't that long ago you were here. We were talking about your, obviously about the race. It was uncontested. What did you take from that process, or what were sort of some of the big things that you took from that process? Obviously, if it's a contested race, some folks might feel like you learn a little bit about sort of the job, or a little bit about, sort of the folks you're going to be tasked with leading. But you were there. You've been doing the job. So now I ask, what did you take from that process, the election process?
I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 21 years, so I am very familiar with how our department operates. But I can tell you that during the campaign season, I didn't just sit idle, even though I didn't have an opponent. I was very active out in the community. I did a lot of door-to-door work, meeting the citizens that I will be working for here beginning January 1st. I really enjoyed that process. I learned a lot about the people that live in our county. We cover such a large area, it's such a broad spectrum, that it was very interesting for me to see the learn about the different concerns and issues that the people in our county have. So it was great going door to door. I think that was one of my favorite parts of the campaign.
So I do have to ask, sort of expanding on that a little bit, Cayuga County is not only a large one, but it is sort of like Seneca County, oddly shaped. It's longer. It covers a lot of area. Obviously, you said you learned a lot through that process and just probably how diverse the county is. But talk to us a little more about that and just what sort of challenges that might even pose on sort of the day-to-day.
One of the biggest challenges is actually the coverage with our road patrol division, covering that vast amount of territory with the limited resources we have. That's always been a challenge. As I traveled the county and talked with the different residents during the campaign season, I reaffirmed what I already knew, that this is going to be challenging moving forward, trying to cover all of these areas and provide the best service we can with the number of patrol deputies that we have on the road.
Mm-hmm. So let's sort of look forward to 2019 and beyond. What are a couple things that, big or small, that you think will be carried over well from the Gould administration into yours?
I think the biggest thing is going to be the staff that we have at the Sheriff's Office. I'm really proud of the men and women that I work with. They are the Sheriff's Office, and I know moving forward that this job's not going to be about me as an individual. It's going to be about our entire department, and I'm proud to say that we have many of the dedicated staff that were at the administrative level and below that'll still continue to be with us moving forward, and I think that's what makes our department successful and will bring us success in the future.
So then on the flip side of that, what are a few things that maybe you haven't seen before that you're kind of excited about maybe tinkering with or possibly trying or incorporating into your administration maybe haven't been done before?
One of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to is how we're going to attack our drug and heroin problem moving forward. I want to attack that from three different angles. First and foremost, law enforcement. I think that we need to be even more aggressive in attacking this, identifying drug dealers, arresting them, getting them off the street, keeping them locked up as long as we can. It's been my position that if you're going to peddle poison in our community, that we're going to do everything we can to keep you locked up. We don't have room for you in our community. I also think it's very important that we support recovery efforts. For those that are committing minor crimes to support addiction, I don't know that their place is necessarily in jail. I think that we need to work to help them find a path to recovery. And one of the things that we're working on right now is adding a transition coordinator to our jail staff to work with not only those that are suffering from addiction, but maybe others that need help when they're released from our facility to get down the right path with the goal of reducing recidivism, certainly to help people heal, to get better, but also save tax dollars by not having that continuing cycle of, commit minor crimes, come to jail, commit minor crimes, come to jail, and it can be a revolving door. And I want to change that. So that's the second way that I want to attack the addiction problem we have. And the third way, and I've been very active in our community with this for a number of years, I think prevention and education is key as well. Not only our children, but all the residents that we serve. I think they need to understand how detrimental it can be to use certain drugs, to become addicted to those drugs, even when initially using them for legitimate purposes, such as painkillers. I think the community needs to understand just how dangerous they can be. So I think we need to attack our drug problem that way too. So that with those three areas, I think that we can make a difference in our community. I think we have done that, and I think we can step up our efforts moving forward.
So how do you sort of capture that and use that voice and the new platform, obviously, that you're going to have in 2019 to sort of be the advocate for the types of change that you're talking about? Obviously, not only just increasing the law enforcement aspect of it, but also, being that voice for the community that says we also need X, Y, and Z too if we're going to really combat this.
I think the sheriff has to lead by example. I've been very active with our local drug-free community coalition for the last few years. I've been a board member of HEAL, the Heroin Epidemic Action League. I've personally been involved with those organizations, my family and I, and I've watched other people in our department view that and get involved due to my involvement with those agencies. And I think that's how you do that. I think you have to lead by example. You can't ask your staff to do that, but not show that you're willing to do the same thing. So I think I have to be out there. I think I have been out there, and I'm going to continue to be very actively involved. I've made many friends with people that are in the recovery community, and I know some that are just incredible voices for recovery. I want to work with them to bring that message of recovery to not only our inmates but other people in the community, and attack the problem that way as well. So again, I think it's being very active with those different areas and leading by example.
So you mentioned that the education arm of obviously the opioid fight, but also just around policing in general. How do you think you go about raising awareness and sort of educating members of the community about what you guys are doing and why you're there and the important role that obviously law enforcement plays in keeping a community safe?
Sure. I think the easiest way today is social media. I'm going to expand that greatly when I come into office. We currently use Facebook. We're very active on Facebook and social media and on that platform. But moving forward, I want to add some additional platforms, Twitter, Instagram, try to capture some of the other age demographics that are out there that we might not be grabbing with the current use of Facebook and social media that we have now. But I think that's the best way to get to a wide audience. It works. I've seen it work, and I think that we can expand upon that. So certainly that will be one area. Getting involved with the community events, being involved with our schools and other organizations personally, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy bringing our message out to the community in that way too. So I intend to be very active in that way, as well as encourage our staff at the sheriff's office to do the same, to get involved with the community and spread that message as well.
So you mentioned obviously some of the other social platforms, Instagram as an example, a lot of young people there. Is that the next evolution in this sort of digital step for law enforcement more broadly, you think?
I think that it is. I think that we have to expand into those areas. I'm very capable of using Facebook. I can admit that I'm not much of an Instagram or Twitter user yet, but I will be learning how to do that. And I'm bringing some staff on board that I think is going to be very good with using those platforms to spread our message. So I'm hoping they can help me with that.
I know we talked about it last time, but whenever I have someone from law enforcement in here, I always think it's worth talking about just the impact that social media in general has actually had on what you guys do on a daily basis in finding people, identifying folks, whatever the case may be. It's not just sort of a PR platform like I think some people might imagine it being. You guys are using that for real police work, right? We are. It's been an incredible tool, and I think that we may have spoke about one particular case when I was here last time, but I bring this up when I'm asked a question like this. We did have one case where a farmer's fields were intentionally damaged. I recall that I had that investigation. I put that story out on social media, our Facebook page, to see if anybody would have any information that would help solve that crime. And literally within 5 minutes, I had 3 different people that had sent us the name of the individual that had actually done it. So it was incredible. If it weren't for that social media story, we never would have solved that case likely, and it was just incredible. But that's just one story. We've had many success stories with social media when it comes to solving crime and identifying people that commit crime. So it's been great. So now let's shift gears a little bit and sort of talk about an extension of the education piece, getting into schools, being in schools. How important is it really making sure that you're developing those relationships with young people at a young age so that by the time they're 15, 16, 17, 18, and may not have the best interaction at all times with police, that they at least have relationships to build on? I think that it's key. I'm a strong supporter of the Student Resource Officer program, the SRO program. We do not have SROs in every school in our county. We do have SROs in some. Some are provided by other departments or agencies. But this is something that I've thought about for some time. Whether we have an SRO in a particular school in our county or not, I think it's going to be crucial that I encourage and that our department encourages our officers to stop by those schools occasionally and to be present when they can be. That won't be as effective as if they were there every day building those close relationships. But if we don't have the ability to have an SRO in a particular school, I think it's key that we do have our people stop there. Those relationships are key. I've seen successful SROs build incredible relationships with the students and relationships that I believe have paid dividends even beyond the student career of the child. They stay in contact. They have good rapport, and I think it makes a big difference to have that student resource officer there. Is that sort of the long-term goal of not just your office, but seems like every office is to try and get as much presence in every school as humanly possible, and work towards having an SRO in every school? That would be an ultimate goal of mine. I would love to see that. I don't know if that's going to happen with budget constraints. That's always a challenge. But in a perfect world, if we could do that, I would love to see that because I believe the program is very, very beneficial. So there's a lot of talk about questions about sort of what modern policing looks like. Obviously, we've talked about some of the digital aspects of it. But when you hear the phrase modern policing, what comes to mind, or what are some of the hallmarks of what you think is good modern policing? When I think of modern policing, I think of all of the technology we have at our disposal today. Mm-hmm. It's incredible how fast it changes. We're using drone technology now. We have drones that we're using that are save a lot of money when it comes to, in the past we would request helicopters from other counties. Now often we don't need to do that. We can put our own little drone up in the air and we've got immediate access to it. It doesn't cost that much to fly it. I think of DNA technology and how we're able to process crime scenes and collect evidence. Mm-hmm. It's changed a great deal since even I've come on the job, and 21 years ago. It's incredible how it's changed. I look at the technology that we have in our patrol cars and how deputies are able to get data from their mobile computers in the car instantly that when I came on the job just wasn't available from the car. You'd have to radio in for that information, and today they can have it instantly. So when they're on a traffic stop, they can plug in information from that particular stop and have immediate data back to them, immediate information back to them that they wouldn't have had in the past. So I think technology is just changing quickly, and we're always trying to explore new ways to do our job more efficiently, more effectively. And I think moving forward,
we're going to be a better police department due to the technology, and it's going to be crucial in saving tax dollars and helping us with our budget.
So part of that discussion, we've thrown that one out on social media a couple times, and it seems like the perception is that, well, if technology is improving and crime in some places is getting lesser, why is there not lesser staff for these various law enforcement agencies? And it seems like, and this is just the outsider's perspective, that because there's more technology at your fingertips doesn't mean that less work is being done. Is that sort of a misnomer in terms of what it actually takes to close a case for you guys?
There is. I mean, you might see crime stats in one particular area decrease, but they're increasing in another. This job is always changing. It's evolving all of the time. We have to evolve and keep up with it because these challenges are just difficult to keep up with. But today, when you think about our drug epidemic, that takes so much of our time and our resources, and challenges like that are just something that are difficult to stay on top of. But the technology, sure, it's making us more efficient. We're having a huge impact in different areas when it comes to crime. However, there's always something new popping up in the world of crime that's hard to keep up with. So we're always changing and evolving with it.
So then the next step is how do you continue to get the community more involved with what you guys are doing so that there is more awareness? And I mean the community at large, not necessarily just students or just a certain group, but the whole community.
I think going back to getting our message out there is key. I think that we have to be able to get our message to the community. I think that the community has to trust us in the work that we're doing. I think any law enforcement agency, it's imperative that they have the trust of the community that they serve. If they don't have the trust, they're not going to be able to police that community. So if we can get our message out there, if we continue to build the trust in the community, I think that I think the community members are going to work with us. So it's key to just continually get that message out there, to have that interaction, to have that, and it's two-way communication. I think we need to get that information out to our community, but at the same time, we have to allow for ways for the community to let us know how they're feeling, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong when we're not living up to our promise. So I think if we have that two-way communication, I think that the community is going to be in a position to help us and help us move forward.
So let's talk a little bit about the Undersheriff selection process. Obviously, it wasn't something that you announced during the campaign process. You waited, which I think was probably the right move, and a lot of folks probably agree with that. But what went into your decision in choosing an Undersheriff, and what were some of the qualities that you were looking for as you were sort of going down the checklist?
When I was looking to choose my Undersheriff, I did have a number of potential prospects. I looked at a number of people who all were very, very qualified, very, very good people that I've worked with over the years. But my primary goal was to find somebody that shared my vision, to find somebody that cared deeply about our community, that cared about the people that we served, that looked at everybody in our community, whether they were committing crime or a victim of a crime, and wanted to help that person, any person in need. So I was looking for somebody that shared my vision, truly cared about people in our community, and somebody that I trusted 100%. And my choice came down to Steve Smith. Steve has worked with me in the Criminal Investigations Division for the last 15 years. He has been my right-hand partner. He and I have worked on more cases together than I've worked on with anybody else in the department. But Steve is basically somebody that I know the type of person he is. I know how he feels about our department. I know that he cares about our community, and he is a very organized and an intelligent person that I lean on often. I always have leaned on him at different times due to his abilities, and I just think he's a great cop. But I think he's going to serve the residents of Cayuga County very well as my Undersheriff. I think he and I are going to make a good team, and I see great things coming with him.
So how important is that sort of past partnership and that existing professional relationship when you're going into what is now a new venture for you compared to what you have done for the last up to 10 years?
I think that it's key. You need somebody that you can feel confident in, knowing that they understand your department, they understand the direction that you want to see it go in, You also need to make sure you have somebody that the rest of the people and the rest of your staff and the community respects as well. And I think Steve is that person, and that's why I chose